Welcome, everybody, to the Reddit League show. My name is Zotomo, and I'm joined today by only Calamity. How are you?
Hello, doing good.
Yeah, due to some extraordinary circumstances, we are only two today. Our special guest couldn't join us, but we'll try to have them on later. So this week 5, we were in Pennsylvania this week. So our American map. So without much ado, let's jump right in to Division 1. So here we look at the scores. A very, very interesting week in Division 1. Isn't that right, Calamity?
Yeah, with an average of 23,981 points, this was the highest scoring leg in Division 1 yet, even beating out Rural World, where they got 23,415 points on average. And as a result of that, we got a lot of draws, with the two winners of the week being the two people playing against the Frenchmen, Verdoc and Compilu, who were the only ones to score below 24,000 points, Magaran and Raidman Mucha.
Yeah, that's what really stood out to me was just all these draws as well as the high scores. So anything stand out in particular that was surprising? Bad performances or good performances here?
Not particularly. It's always a bit hard to say whether a performance on a map like Pennsylvania is surprising, especially when those results were so close. A lot of people here living in Pennsylvania, and when I say a lot, or in the US in general, when I say a lot, I mean free. But yeah, lots of good players here. Pennsylvania isn't too difficult of a map, so I'm not very surprised by the good scores.
Okay, well then let's look at what that means for the Division 1 table. Raidman Mucha does take that top position on score differential, finally moving up in the tables a bit. Everything else seems to be relatively stable, especially towards the bottom, with no change in the bottom 3. Equinox does take quite a tumble, though. He drops a few places, and Maguron and Kevin Kroner simply switching this week. Yeah, so now officially for Division 1, we are halfway through the season for them. So any predictions maybe for those top 4 places for that playoff, Calamity?
I'll think about them shortly. I'll just get another few things out of the way.
Okay.
I have my sentences prepared here. I need to say them.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, you'd kind of think there wouldn't be much movement in the standings with all of those draws, but everyone except the bottom 3 moved at least some places. And it's even closer than before, with the exception of the bottom 2. All of them are within 3 points. And the interesting thing is that there's 2 players who have yet to play either Verdoc or Compilu, and those 2 are Kevin Kroner and Chicago Geographer. So those 4 matches will be very crucial to decide how the bottom 4 will look at the end of the season. Regarding the top 4, I'd probably place a bet on Simi as a guarantee. The other 3, probably Raidman Mucha as well, if he keeps his form going. And then it'll be difficult for the others. I think it depends a lot on the matches, as I said, between Chicago, Kevin Kroner, Verdoc, and Compilu. I could see either Kevin Kroner or Chicago making like a last minute charge at the top 4, but I could also just see one of the other one of the people who are already up there pulling through, like Schludi or GC.
Yeah, it's very, very tight. Only 3 points separating those top positions, and Kevin Kroner and Chicago Driver not too far behind either. So, yeah, really tricky to see. It's interesting to see that Kevin Kroner and Chicago Driver have Verdoc and Comte Bilou coming up soon. So that pretty much maybe guarantees them their at least not automatic relegation places, as long as they put up good performances there. But they might still be struggling a bit to stay out of those relegation playoff spots, depending on how things go. Only 1 win apiece for them. As we look at week 6 next week, we're on a balanced world map. So Calamity, any in particular matches look interesting to you?
Yeah, 2 of those aforementioned matches will happen this week already, with Chicago against Compilu and Verdoc against Kevin Kroner. The interesting thing about that is, as well as apart from the table position, I mean, in week 3, we had Verdok versus Compilu and Chicago versus Kevin Kroner. And those 4 players were all within the top 50% of their seed, and both of those matches were draws. So those two could be some real close games. Raidman Mucha versus Magyaran could also be fun to watch out for because they've got the second and third highest total score of the division. And then we've also got Schludi versus GC. Both of them were in that leading pack who started the season with 3 consecutive wins. But since then, Schludi's only picked up 2 points and GC has even only picked up 1. 2 matches without a win hardly make for a bad run, but if you add a third to that, it might get a bit worrying.
Yeah, especially this late into the season, over halfway. So Schulde and Geography Challenges will be looking to turn that form around, while Raidman will be trying to see if he can maintain his top position. Very nice. Yeah, what's interesting is that we're back to a world map, which for a lot of the other divisions probably makes quite a bit of difference. But for Division 1, not a whole lot. They tend to put up good scores every week regardless. So not maybe the biggest change from week to week for them, at least. Okay, well, let's take a look at the results for Division 2 in Pennsylvania. So, Calamity.
Yeah, the most notable thing here is that even though you missed putting it in yellow on here, Teskotak missed the deadline, and therefore he'll lose his lead and give a free win to Radu. Other than that, there weren't a lot of surprises here. Slovak goalie used his home advantage to get a comfortable win, his first one, against a relatively weak score from Yellow Skamry. And Tall Impala put in a great performance to get a draw off Blockchain Prenup, who will no doubt be slightly annoyed that he had to play against one of the 3 people who were able to match his performance this week, since he needs all the points he can get in his position.
Yeah, Tall Impala again putting up a very good score, probably due mostly to his practice. But our good friend Radox there still struggling to find his first win. Not going to happen this week. We'll look to see if he can pick it up in week 6. But yeah, maybe Benica would have hoped for a little bit of better performance. He's not American, but it is closer to home soil than probably any other maps have been. So that's a little bit unfortunate. But Giovanni there putting up a very good score. So kind of hard to compete with anyways. Yeah. So for the table, that doesn't mean a whole lot. The top pretty much stay the same, except for Mr. Blue GG finally taking position 1 from Teskotak with that yellow card. Quite a bit of shuffling happening in the middle of the pack, but the bottom 4 still staying the same, except for Slovak goalie there moving 1 position up above Radox, who through 5 matches is still looking for his first win, unfortunately. Yeah, so Calamity, anything particular for you?
Radox apparently wants to join me in Division 3 for next season, because apparently I'm not getting out of it either, but we'll get to that. I was actually hoping for this to happen in D3, but now it's happened in D2 as well. The top half has a positive and the bottom half has a negative score difference. That's very satisfying. It's even more perfect than that as well. The top half have the top 6 overall scores too. It's almost as if we weren't playing 1v1s.
Yeah, kind of more statistically normal and compared to Division 1 at least, yeah.
And Ice Pharaoh has picked up 3 wins in a row now, and he's getting closer and closer to the promotion spots.
Yeah, so he'll be happy with his run of form. Hopefully Teskotak, though, doesn't get a second yellow next week or at any stage in the tournament, because that would change things up quite a bit, wouldn't it, Calamity?
Yeah, with him having wins against everyone he's played so far. I mean, well, technically it wouldn't change up anything now that I think about it.
Yeah, because it would just mean that they wouldn't get points, but they already didn't get points, so it would pretty much stay the same, actually. Yeah. Maybe except for Radu, who picked up the win
Yeah.
this week against him. Other than that, it would pretty much stay the same. Yeah. So let's check out who they'll be facing in week 6 on the world map. Yeah. So any interesting matchups for you here, Calamity?
Yeah, there's some matches here that definitely could end up being exciting, but they look to have a clear favorite, so they don't stand out from the beginning. My eyes are mainly on if Iceflower can keep his run going against Mr. Blue, who's unbeaten so far, and on whether Radox can finally pick up his first win against Benica, who had 2 weak performances in the last 2 weeks, but had the best score of his division in week 3 on the Rural World, so it's, again, not going to be an easy match for Radox.
Yeah, in the middle of the table matchup there with Yellow Skarmory and Stymphalics in 6th and 7th place. We added the table positions there for you on these matchups to make it a little bit more clear what might be going on for you all. Tesco Tech maybe looking to face a fellow American, but not in the American map. So we do have an all-American matchup, but in the wrong week, at least for kind of an interesting home derby there for those two. Tom Paula continuing to put in some practice, but he's already moved on to the next map because it's kind of hard to practice a world map, but still going to be a very tough matchup for Seppo there indeed. Yeah. So we will look at the results for Division 3. And my friend, this is where it gets really interesting in week 5. So as you can see, Ijubag not in yellow, but in red this week. What does that mean, Calamity?
Yeah, we've already talked a bit last week about what happens if you get 2 yellow cards. And, well, it's already happened. All of his results have now been voided, which is something you'll understand better once we look at the table. But the matches themselves all went roughly as you would expect. Maybe Guelo Wizard M the Basement wasn't that clear, but with the American home advantage there, went the way of Guelo Wizard, who stays unbeaten. And other than that, nothing too out of the ordinary. Maybe Pork Steaks picking up his first win with a great performance. But again, he's American. I don't know if he lives in Pennsylvania, to be fair.
Yeah, I'm not sure. There was quite a few players who mentioned they have lived or currently live in Pennsylvania, which was quite the surprise on Reddit to find out all the connections that the Americans had to and other people too, who are internationals living in America, which was quite surprising. But Ijubag there not showing up for 2 weeks in a row gives Hugo Alvaro a victory there. Well, actually not, because it cancels the match out entirely. But other than that, pretty much things going as most people would probably expect. So let's look at what that interesting result and that disqualification for Ijubag means for the Division 3 table. So as you notice, there are quite a few players now who are on still only 4 maps played. That is because with Ijubag getting a red card, he is disqualified, as well as all those matches, as Calamity said, being discounted. So they are now a game behind everybody else in those matchups. And they all move those points, which actually means quite a little bit of a disaster for you there, Calamity. Yeah, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, there's one clear winner and one clear loser because of Ijubag's disqualification. After week 3, Theos was sitting at 0 wins and 3 losses, and now he's at 2 wins and 2 losses. So he's profited quite a bit off of that and put himself up into 8th position with now even like a leg in hand. And, well, I mean, I wasn't the only one who lost their win against him, so did Wolf Tracker, but I lost a massive score differential of about 17,000 points as well, which sees me plummet down the table into 5th. I'm kind of starting to get flashbacks from Season 1.
Yeah, I mean, you're still on equal points with Hugo Alvaro, but only the score differential separating the two of you. The bottom relegation people shuffled around a bit, but unfortunately, Dem Freckles and Theos, looking to climb the table a bit, still find themselves in the relegation fight with Ijubag dropping out. As you can see, he's now black, which means he's now below the table officially. That all stays the same. And what's interesting about this, besides Calamity's point that all the score differentials make sense, is that there are still no draws in Division 3. So everybody either winning or losing their games so far this season. So very interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that
Sorry,
speaks
go
for
ahead.
a bit of a lack of consistency. Like you'd usually get draws if both players played very well and get like in the high 24,000s. And we've not had that regularly with both players in a match so far in Division 3.
Yeah. So probably Division 3, the most volatile of the divisions in terms of that inconsistency. Let's look at who they'll all be facing off in the world map next week. Calamity.
Yeah, there's similarly to Division 2, there's a lot of games that should have a clear winner this week. Freckles more so out of experience rather than the current situation on the table. M the Baseman, Wolf Tracker, and me. Hugo Alvara against Guelo Wizards, the Guelo Wizard could be very interesting. They've been incredibly similar so far. If Hugo Alvara's match versus Ayb Jubek wasn't voided this week, they'd be within 400 points in terms of their overall score. And they were 9th and 10th in the preseason, with Hugo Alvara having the slight edge there. But Guelo Wizard himself got 800 points more in week 3 on a Royal World. So that could be very interesting. And it poses the question of, can Guelo Wizard finally be beaten this season?
Yeah, he's still yet to be defeated. And a world map, probably is a good chance as any for somebody to try to take that position from him. Yeah, at least I certainly think that Wolf Trek will be hoping that Hugo Varro can put up a good score, because he might be able to clinch that top position. So Reddit, though, will be getting a bye week, I assume is how we're going to call it. He has no opponent. Yeah, he has no opponent. And so it will eventually even out in the table of everybody will have played the same number of matches. But from now on, there'll be somebody who gets to take a little bit of a vacation, maybe play the round just for the fun of it to see how they would have fared against their fellow opponents. But yeah, he'll not face off against anybody this week.
The important thing to mention here as well is that, technically it evens out. Everyone plays one less match. But in fact, they play one less match on a different map. So this may work out in favor for some people. Yeah,
maybe Reddit would have rather not had a bye week on a world map, or maybe he would. I mean, we don't really know. But he might have been happy to not have to face off against somebody on a world map, and rather something a map you can maybe more practice, because world maps are not really practicable. So maybe he might take that as a win or a loss. We'll have to see. We might have to ask him that on the Reddit forum this week, what he thinks about that. Yeah, and it's another thing that's interesting about this is there's now an uneven number of players, right? So in 11, so that bye week, and it'll all work out eventually, but that throws things off a little bit. Does it mess up the playoffs a little bit? Maybe, but
it shouldn't mess up the playoffs, at least not the promotion playoffs. I think because we're so many players in Division 3 anyway, even if another one would drop out, it wouldn't change that the top 4 get into promotion contention at least, and the bottom 4 into relegation.
Okay. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how those playoff spots, the automatic promotions and whatnot, but if those playoff spots make any adjustments for if more players drop out. But hopefully they don't. We don't want that. We want a very competitive full table all the way through the entire season. So anyway, let's move on to Division 4A and see how things shaped up there in the lowest division. Calamity.
Yeah, all-round wins for the Americans. I was saying last week that I didn't think Pennsylvania would give you that much of a home advantage, but apparently I was wrong. If you're wondering about Max's score there, he apparently had a lot of issues with Geoguessr in that game, which allowed Lenovo Sachs to pick up his first points of his Reddit League career, and will be a big blow to Max's hopes of promotion. And so, Zotomo, you and Nittenrock had the closest game of the week that didn't end in a draw. That's something, right?
Yeah, exactly. Not the stat I want to be a part of, because I'd rather have either won or drawn. But yeah, just missing out on that draw there. I looked at our games, and we both had one round we didn't find, and they were not the same round. So he found a round I didn't, and vice versa. But he did slightly better on his second worst round than I did, which gives him just a little bit of an edge. Yeah, but unfortunately for Max FI, there really that technical trouble dropping him out of strong contention for the automatic playoff position, but does put him right in the pack for those other playoff spots. So let's look at the Division 4 table there. So Patriots kind of shoring up his first place position with a 4-point lead. After that week, Mabaz moves up into second with Max FI dropping down. I think I do move up a point over Neusel from last week, if I'm not mistaken. But Nitnarok does leapfrog me with the win over me. I did get the bonus point, which kept me really close, and that score differential helping me out. And Lenovo sucks. Unfortunately for him, his first win doesn't move him anywhere in the table. He's still stuck in 8th place on score differential. So anything from you, Calamity, here?
Yeah, Patriots is now looking to run away with it. He's got there's 2 games before the end of the season for Division 4. He's 4 points ahead and will get that automatic promotion spot if he can get a single win out of those 2 games, and one of them is against Lenovo Sucks. So that's pretty much over. But behind him, there's a fierce battle going on over who's going to be the one person that has to miss out on playoffs. And a little fun fact, there's no one in all 4 divisions who has a lower score than Nitnarok in 5 games played with more than 3 points. So he's quite lucky to have 9 points and be in the middle of the table there.
Yeah, I noticed, I think that on total points scored, I was at least not before this week. I haven't checked the new stats. I had the 3rd most total points in the division, but yet I was sitting at 6th place. So I was kind of rather unlucky in some regard there to have scored many points, but not really showing up in my position. But that's the breaks. That's how it goes in week-to-week matchups. So yeah, but let's see how the next week fixtures look for Division 4A. Particularly interesting for Division 4, as in most of the players here are familiar with world maps. I think most of us don't play country or small region maps as often as some of the upper divisions do. So definitely going to be very competitive, I think, this week. But anything for you, Calamity, here?
Yeah, Mabos against you and Max versus Nitnarok will be very important games to decide on that on who's going to miss out. And they could go either way, to be honest, because Nitnarok put in a very strong performance on the other world map we had in week 3. And, well, I guess it'll depend a lot on whether Max can get a game without any technical issues for once. And if Neusel wins his game against Anand Z, which I would favor him to do, there's going to have to be a new person occupying that 6th place going into the last week. And the one who probably least wants to be in that position is Nitnarok, since he'll have to go up against Patriots in week 7.
Yeah. So the good thing for me here is I've already played the top, before now, the top 2 players in Patriots and Max FI, but I've also played the bottom 2 players, which means, my fate is in my own hands, which I don't know if I'm entirely happy with or not, but, we can see how it works out. But I definitely think me versus Mabos is the kind of the match to watch, because we are right there in the hunt against each other, and it'll be really tight going into that final week. Yeah, so let's look at the Division 4B, the other half of Division 4, their results from week 5 in Pennsylvania. Calamity.
Yeah, Closed won the Division 4 game of the week with a great performance over Deepthought, who will pick up an extra point for placing 3rd. And further down the table, the wins went to GRH77 and That One Weird Girl in their bottom of the table clashes.
Yeah, That One Weird Girl picking up her first win on home soil as well. Good job to her. Props. I think she even beat me in total score. We didn't go up against each other, but she beat me, I think, in score. Yeah, Ed putting up again another strong performance, but Papo Gatto kind of a little bit disappointing with not even 10,000 points in week 5. So let's see what that means for the other half of Division 4 in their table. Closed, still maintaining his top position without a loss at 15 points, but Ed keeping right on his heels with 13. Again, no movement towards the bottom of the table, unfortunately, for that one wheel girl who does pick up her first win, but still sits at the bottom. I think H-Town there picking up a bonus point, which keeps him up a bit. Ed, yeah, into second, and GH moves up into fifth. But other than that, the overall look of the table stays pretty much the same in terms of those playoff spots for Division 4B. Anything interesting to you here, Calamity?
Yeah, there's not been a lot of movement overall, but the bottom 5 in this case have moved a lot closer together, and there's still everything on the cards for the last 2 rounds. It's actually, for the top 3, that was the last of the games between them. So unless any of them slip up, that's going to be your top 3 for the rest of the season, probably.
Okay, so maybe Close 24/7 will be looking to maintain a perfect season, and Ed will be looking to maybe, hopefully, have somebody else beat him if he wants any hopes of that final promotion, automatic promotion spot. That is, yeah. But let us look then at who they'll be facing in week 4. So Closed will fancy his chances to maintain his perfect run against Caroline, because I put the numbers in. That one wheel girl is a little bit too long to fit in my overlay, so I shortened her name to her Geoguessr name there, if you're wondering who that is. But anything else for you, Calamity?
And the only match that doesn't look quite clear from the get-go is Papagato versus H-Town. That being said, Steven actually had a better score in week 3 than Ed, so we may see a surprise there as well.
Indeed. Yeah. But yeah, those top 3 places pretty much looking to just secure their place with this week, if they haven't already, so they can get into those playoffs. Okay, well, before we finish, as always, let's take a quick look at the map that we have for next week. We've already mentioned it several times, but it is our second world map at a balanced world. It has an average score of about 13,000 points. It's been played almost 40,000 times, and it contains over 10,000 locations. So yeah, not practicable in the least. If you actually read the description, the author mentions there being 12,530 handpicked locations. It does remove potato cameras, broken movement, and photospheres, so we won't have to worry about those. But the locations are balanced mainly between urban, rural, easy to find, tough to find, as well as different kinds of landscapes and different countries. So should be an interesting map. Any thoughts about this map, Calamity?
Yeah, Deborah is known for putting a lot of baity locations into his maps. That's mostly for non-moving games, though, so it shouldn't be too much of an issue in moving games. But it still means that you might occasionally end up in a bit of a weird location that's not where you'd usually expect to be. Other than that, yeah, it's a world map, so there's not going to be too many significant changes over other world maps. Again, maybe a bit more urban than a rural world, but yeah, if you get an unlucky seed, might as well be a rural world map.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's just me, but I definitely feel like Division 4 has had some of the toughest seeds. But at least for me, anyways, I don't think it goes universally across the board that's true. But some of my best performances have actually come on other division seeds, and ours have just been a little bit rough sometimes, I feel. But so I'm hoping to get a good seed in a world map that I can put up some good scores. I did get an ace before, so I'll be looking to pick up some more of those. But on a world map, definitely look for more aces, being the most lenient in terms of points. So that should be fun to look forward to. But yeah, so we will see you all on the world map next week. Take care.
Bye.